And according to StreamYard, we are live. Good evening. Good evening, people of the internet. I see Tech Odyssey. I see Zach. And also, good evening.
Oh,
good
shit.
evening, people of the internet. I see Tech Odyssey. I see Zach.
Shut up.
And could you guys hear that?
Yes.
I'm a professional. Oh boy, how's everybody doing this evening? Rashid is here. Thanks for being here. Marcus, Matt. Oh, of course. El Jefe is always here. So, and yeah, I 13 hours. I know. I did sleep a little bit. I kind of wish I was still asleep though. I don't know. On Twitter this morning, I at 5:30 in the morning, I tweeted that I had been awake since 3 a.m. And Genosis, he was like, "Well, you've only got 13 hours until the podcast."
You tweeted the same time I did. I was trying to upload something.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I don't know.
People are asking what happened to my head. Well, if you guys recall last week, this was on my face. So I've migrated up here because I can't find my white hat. My custom hat. I can't find it.
It's got to be around somewhere.
I don't know. I got to hide the hair because it's just like.
Yeah. All right. We'll save all this good talk for after we do the intro. Are you guys ready for the intro?
I'm ready. All right.
My.
All right.
Well, fancy meeting you here. It is yet another Tuesday here in the global pandemic that is the world, and we're back on the Painfully Honest Tech podcast. Tonight we've got so much good stuff to talk about. I didn't even write it down. No idea.
I gave you guys notes.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to seem cool, Zach. Seem cool. Like, oh man, I got no idea what I'm going to talk about, and then I would be brilliant.
I threw some notes in the Google DM or the Twitter DM, and you're just like, yeah, throw that.
Oh, and speaking of Zach, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. My wife made some delicious macaroni salad last night.
Oof.
And I had some more today. It was awesome. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you, wife.
So is it like a German macaroni salad, or is it like the one with the mayonnaise? Like,
no, like with the mayo, it's got like chopped up pieces of cheese and and it's just really.
Yeah, I hate it.
That's delicious. You know who has really good macaroni salad is KFC.
Yeah. So I've heard. I don't know. That was one of those things that was a staple at like all of the big family potluck dinners.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
it's a Ukrainian thing. It's awesome.
I could do the German style, which is more like, it doesn't have the mayonnaise. It has more like a salad dressing, kind of like oil and vinegary kind of thing going on. And that's pretty good. But I had this thing about mayonnaise ever since I was a kid.
Well, my wife doesn't overdo it. It's very light. But
yeah. I heard this joke about mayonnaise when I was a kid, and it just like somehow really scarred me.
Well, now that you're all disgusted or really hungry now, thank you for being here.
Viper, what's going on with you this evening?
What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech. And finally, we have a topic that is near and dear to my heart since I am the captain of Team Apple. Tonight, we are talking about the iPhone SE. But first, before we even do any of that stuff, Jason is going to talk to us about tonight's sponsor of the podcast. Woo! Oh my goodness.
Thank you very much. Yes, the sponsor for tonight, as is the sponsor for every one of these Painfully Honest Tech podcasts, is the good folks over at Audible.com. Audible.com is the finest purveyor of all kinds of audiobooks. I love Audible.com. Did you know that Audible is now available? It wasn't for a while. It's now available on a Sonos. So you can listen to your audiobooks like in your Whole House audio if you got the Sonos. Anyway, audibletrial.com/painfully honest tech gets you a free month of Audible. And, you know, you guys should take advantage of this because, I mean, some of you might live alone and just having somebody else talking could be good for you. I don't know. I don't know. Just hearing another voice. It could be good. It could be good. Maybe that's why you're here right now. You get to hear our voices talking about this kind of stuff. So audibletrial.com/painfully honest tech. That is, as always, the sponsor of this here podcast.
And I have to point something out. There's we do this podcast Tuesdays live on the internets at 8 o'clock Eastern. That's 7 o'clock. Sorry, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain. 5 o'clock Pacific. So if you want to come participate, head over to Painfully Honest Tech's website there or YouTube page. Look for the podcast, the stream that comes up every Tuesday here, and you can be part of the chat. So, for example, I'm reading through the chat right now, and people are saying, "Do the Viper voice thing again." So I'll push the button.
Whoa! Oh my goodness!
And see, you can participate just like that. And
and
Viper smiles, but I know it pisses him off. So.
You all are going to have to excuse that because right now he doesn't even know what day it is. So excuse him.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? That's true. I'm not going to excuse myself. I thought it was Monday.
Yeah. I don't know what day it is either. To tell you the truth,
Tuesday.
Well, I do know it's Tuesday, but if I didn't know that yesterday was 420, baby, I wouldn't know what today's date was.
My wife's like, "What's 420? What's 420?" I'm like, of all people, because she takes the oil for headaches.
Yeah,
I'm like, of all people, you should know what this day is.
The CBD.
Yeah, she does. She does that for the headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get me some of that CBD because I'm a freaking wreck. I'm a total just
up here in Canada. It's like there's a shop like every few blocks. It's crazy.
Yeah. Here in Iowa, we haven't legalized it.
You haven't yet?
Not in Iowa. No.
Oh, okay, interesting.
You know, but someday. I can't even man. I'm not going to tell drug stories on the podcast. Why would I do that?
Viper, really quick. Is it legalized in Illinois?
Yeah, as of Jan 1.
Oh, there you go.
See, I'd have to go an hour down the road to Illinois and pick it up from somebody at a rest stop.
Just meet with Viper and be like, "Hey, man."
Maybe at the rest stop right before you get into Iowa on I-80.
Viper does not dabble in that stuff.
I was just saying, if you guys want to get together, have some fun. Anyway, let's talk about the iPhone.
Yeah.
Where did the show go?
Yes. We have. Oh my goodness! It's iPhone week.
It is.
Depending on who you listen to, it's either the greatest thing that Apple has ever done or the worst thing that Apple has ever done.
Interesting.
iPhone SE.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like at one point I would have been one of the people saying that's a stupid phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is much different now than it was back in the day. And Apple is a different company, at least in terms of their products and how they're putting themselves out there.
I think this will be their biggest seller this year.
Oh my, not even close.
I mean, we got people talking about this phone potentially being the smartphone of the year for 2020.
I've already said it's the most important smartphone of the year. I mean, I really think it is the most important smartphone of the year because, people are like, "Oh, well, if you're out of a job because of the whatever, then you don't need to think about an iPhone." I mean, people have to buy phones.
Mm-hmm.
People need phones. Yeah, phones break. People's phones are, you're on a cycle to get. Anyway, people will get phones, and the iPhone SE, or as we like to call it, the iPhone 8S.
So we got a live audience right now. So for those 99 of you watching right now, if you are getting an iPhone SE this week, show me some hands, baby. Let's see some show of hands in the chat for those who are getting the iPhone SE this week.
I'm telling you right now, probably for the majority of people that listen to us or watch us here or watch our videos, this is not the phone for them. I know you're getting one, Viper, for the review purposes.
Yeah, I got one.
But you're not going to be keeping that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be keeping it. Yeah.
You're gonna keep it?
I might keep
Well,
mine.
for the immediate future. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Here's the reason I am excited. They've got the product red, right?
With the black
And
front. Yeah, it looks nice.
the black front. The product red with the black front, which when the iPhone 8 came out with product red, it had the white front. So now we get a little bit. It's a makeup. It's a do-over for them.
They're bringing sexy back.
Yeah, they are.
Yep. Justin.
Jason, you are getting the red, correct?
I am.
I am too. Oh yeah.
I got the white one coming.
I've got a white 11, so I figured, no point in getting another white.
Wait. Zach, you order one of these?
Yeah. The clicks, the views. For two specific reasons. One, I'm going to do some content with it, but two, both my parents were this close to getting iPhone 11s, and they were just totally turned off from the whole where's the home key and that kind of stuff, right? And they also found they just didn't like the look and feel of it and everything. Even when we went and looked at it, this is when the stores were still open. But now that I've emailed them and shown them on FaceTime here and there what it looks like, they're just like yes. And at $549 Canadian, so I know it's $399 American, but the 64 gigabyte is I think it's $549 Canadian. Like that's a steal. And on a 2-year agreement with them re-signing with, I think they're with TELUS, they're both going to get their phones for free. That's not like it's just, and it's 64 gigabytes. It's more than they need.
Absolutely. So, Jason, let's start with this. I made a video last night talking about all the compromises that are being made with this $399 iPhone. Now, that's not to say it's a bad phone, but obviously when we're talking about an iPhone coming at $399, there are compromises. Chief among them, probably for most people, is that design. It's using the design of the iPhone 6. It has those grandma-looking bezels. A lot of people feel like that design is out of date because now we got a lot of phones with a edge-to-edge screen design, or if you have one of the latest iPhones, you have the notch. So everything's looking more modern than this iPhone SE. But again, how much can you complain about the design when the phone is coming at $399?
I hear what you're saying. And I mean, yes, dated design. And some people are like, oh, this is the design from 2011, man. I'm like, no, it's not. But yeah, it's an older design. It's a smaller form factor. A lot of people like bigger phones these days. But I mean, still, I think whenever you ask anybody within shouting distance of any of us, the bias is going to skew toward like the more expensive phones that have the fancier features, right?
Right.
So I think that this is going to be big for people like Zach's parents.
This is for consumers. This is not for tech people at all. There's a comment right now and I've seen headlines like this and everything, and this is not to slam people that said this phone's for your grandma. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This phone is for Apple consumers. It's not for tech enthusiasts. It's not for tech reviewers. This is for the people that control the market. This is specifically for the people that control the market outside of us that are here on the internet arguing about bezels and notches and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like this is for those people.
99% of the people who will buy the iPhone SE will not even know what a bezel is.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yep.
Jason dropping fire already.
But it's true. It's true. And of course, you can be cynical about it and you can say, well, Apple just wants to get more people into the ecosystem. Well, of course they want to get more people into the ecosystem. I mean, that's kind of their business, right? So it's I mean, I'm actually excited about this phone. And I think if it were a different time, if it were, different situation, then maybe I wouldn't be as excited. But given how the conversation, at least for me, has been about how ridiculous it is to spend $1,400, $1,000, $2,000, whatever on a phone, for Apple then to just like mic drop this iPhone SE, it's crazy.
Let me tell you this: I was chatting back and forth today on LinkedIn with my OtterBox contact, the guy who used to be our my national manager for OtterBox when I used to work for that accessory company. Okay,
yeah.
They have tripled OtterBox. They have tripled their OtterBox symmetry color line for this from what they brought it with the 11 Pro and the Pro Max. Okay, so in other words, they're bringing out triple the amount of colors and designs because this is the phone this year.
Yeah,
this is the phone.
That is interesting to me because the phone itself only comes in 3 colors. So I find it highly interesting that OtterBox is tripling their color assortment. That's crazy.
Yeah, and their symmetry
Now
line is really
they have black and white.
yeah.
All
Their
right.
their symmetry line is really nice and streamlined, everything like that. But the fact that they're bringing out triple the amount of designs and colors, compared to the flagship of iPhone 11 Pro Max, everything from October, November last year, is huge because they're forecasting that with all the carriers in North America.
No doubt. So I was trying to go to the cons, but since Jason wants to jump to the pros, fine, let's jump to the pros because there's a lot of pros.
So we can go over the cons. We can talk about the cons because but I guess what I was saying is that I think all the cons are sort of relative to the situation, and to the person who's going to buy this phone.
Yeah, I think when I talked about the cons in my video last night, most people brought up the point that the average Joe is not going to care about any of the cons. So you know what? They're right. They're not going to care that the phone is less than 1080p HD. They're not going to care that the battery is only 1,800 milliamp hours. They're not going to care that they only have one camera lens. The average Joe is not going to care about any of that. So you know what? Fine. Let's gloss over the cons because the average Joe is not going to care about the cons like we would because we're hardcore techies. So let's talk about the pros. There's a lot of pros. We're talking about a $399 iPhone that will be supported for at least 4 to 5 years because it has that A13 Bionic chip. We are talking about a phone that, even though it has the camera lens from the iPhone 8, it is actually going to be using the image signal processing from the iPhone 11, which means your pictures are still going to look extra crispy because it's using that iPhone 11 image signal processing.
Right. Here's another thing I was thinking about too, because this is something my dad asked me. He said, "Does it have a headphone jack?" And I said no, it doesn't. He goes, oh, and listen to where I'm going with this. He goes, oh, well, I guess now I have an excuse to get AirPods. Think about this.
Ooh.
You have a whole generation of people that never upgraded their phones, and now you're coming in with this $400 iPhone, and that. I know Jason's just like, what?
I'm choking on my own rage.
You can't tell me Apple didn't think about this because here they take it out, and now you're going to force a whole generation into maybe first generation AirPods. And if it's true about the rumors about the new third generation AirPods coming out in May, the first gens will be dropping in price. So people are going to go, oh, what's $400 plus another 100, whatever they put the first gens at.
Yeah.
Boom. $500.
I didn't even think about that, but you bring up an excellent point.
I know it
doesn't have a headphone jack. People that didn't have AirPods before, they will be purchasing AirPods or at least wired or something like that.
I'm telling you, once those third gen AirPods drop in May, if the rumors are true, you're going to see like a complete package for like $500 or $600 where someone can get an iPhone plus AirPods plus whatever third accessory. But just those two together, now you've got someone.
Yep,
really in that ecosystem, which I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing.
Yeah, and other people brought up the point that you could get a whole Apple bundle for $700. You can get the iPhone SE, you can get the Apple Watch 3, and some AirPods all for around $700 to cost of one iPhone 11.
That's right. I didn't even think about you're right. The Generation 3 the watch. Yeah,
I love how we piss off El Jefe every time we talk about the regular AirPods. He just gets mad.
Yeah, well, I mean,
get mad.
I think that Jeff feels the same way that I do about the regular AirPods, which is that they are garbage as headphones. I mean, they don't sound good. Okay, let's not try to perfume the turd here. They don't sound good, but man, they are super super convenient, and they work so well that I'm willing to forgive that. I'm willing to forgive the fact that they sound as bad as they do, just because they sound better than the original Galaxy Buds. How's that?
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, I think a tin can sounds better than the original Galaxy Buds.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, but I just it's a great opportunity for Apple, and you can think of it cynically, and you can say, well, geez, they just figured out another group to get money from. But that is their business, right? So
yeah. So the other things about the iPhone SE, obviously, like I said, it comes with an A13. It does have a small battery in it, but with that A13 chip in it, it should optimize it good enough to last an entire day, so we hope. Besides that, it comes in a small form factor, which is legit. It does support fast charging, not fast wireless charging. It does support fast charging, so it goes from 0 to 50% in half an hour. So it has that going on. And like I said, the major thing about this iPhone SE that a lot of people are glossing over is the A13 Bionic chip. Again, with that A13, you are probably getting at least 4 to 5 years of support from Apple, on top of the fact that the A13 allows your pictures to look their absolute best because of that image signal processing that you get with the A13. So the inclusion of the A13 in a $400 iPhone is mammoth. It's huge.
And I'm actually curious to know what the battery life is going to be like. Because yes, if you say 1800 milliamp hours, I'm like, oh, that's kind of frightening. Yeah. But I'm not ready to say that it's going to be bad. I'm not ready to say it's going to be bad, because I know that usually we don't even know what size the batteries are in iPhones. And yes, the iPhones from 2018 or 2019 were thicker than previous phones, because they wanted to have slightly bigger batteries. And those phones, I mean, seriously, with the iPhone 11 Pro, I was getting like 2+ days of battery life.
I still am. It's crazy.
And with the iPhone 11, it's still the same, and it doesn't even have like a more battery than the 10R, right? So I'm really thinking that the iPhone SE is gonna have, it's got a smaller screen to deal with. It's got that A13 that's going to be more efficient. The software is more efficient than it used to be. So I think that we might be surprised, and see that this is easily like a day and a half phone, which was never the case with those smaller iPhones before. Never.
Amen. Like iPhone battery life up until last year for the non-plus model was atrocious. Yeah. But like you said, this iPhone SE has a chance to have legitimate, actual good battery life. But the other thing about the iPhone SE, like Zach was saying, is that it doesn't have Face ID. So you're getting Touch ID. And for a large number of people, they actually prefer Touch ID over Face ID. So if you are in that segment of people, then you're going to be right at home with this iPhone SE.
All those people that are holding on to their old... I mean, I know people that still have an iPhone 4. iPhone 4, they have a 5, a 5S. They have the first gen SE. They might have a 6. They might have a 7.
You know? Yeah. No, so it's been interesting. I've been doing these. So I've done one video about the Note 9. We can talk about that later on, about going back and looking at older phones. But one of the older phones that I have is an iPhone 7 Plus.
Nice,
right? iPhone 7 Plus, matte black. 128 gigabytes. How much do you think I spent?
$299.
Viper.
$350.
$250.
What you said for the Note 9?
For the the
iPhone 7. Okay.
The iPhone 7 Plus.
Oh, wow.
With 128 gigs. So upgraded slightly.
Cool.
It's the first time I've used Touch ID in a long time, and I will say that it takes some getting used to. It does take some getting used to, and once you're used to Face ID, like you no longer really think about locking or unlocking your phone. It's just like you hold it up. It's only those times when you're like laying in bed and trying to do it or something like that is a problem. I mean, I don't get out of bed hardly at all anymore these days. I had to get out of bed to go eat some food to come down here and do the show. That's my day.
So the cool thing about the iPhone SE, like Jason was saying, is that it has the with Touch ID. Touch ID is faster for unlocking the phone, but once you get past unlocking the phone, Face ID is superior in practically every single way. Like Jason said, you don't even have to think about it. You want to get into an app, just as long as you look at the phone, boom, you're already in the app. Yeah. I mean, you want to authenticate with a password, boom, it's already done because of the magic of Face ID. So Face ID is so advanced over Touch ID in a lot of ways, but for the rudimentary, the primitive stuff of unlocking the phone, Touch ID is still faster. Hell, you could be unlocking the phone in your pocket. You can't do that with Face ID.
And it's a comfort thing. There's people that prefer the Touch ID. That for them, that's a feature. That's something they're looking for. It's comforting. They know that it works and everything like that. For myself personally, I almost prefer Face ID. I even have the Face Unlock on my Note 10 Plus now. I very rarely use the touch thing on the front there, and I mean, once you get used to it, you get used to it. I think I can count on one hand since October, since I got my 11 Pro Max. I can count on one hand how many times I've had a problem with the Face ID on my my iPhones. It's
Well
incredible.
done.
Yeah.
For the record, let the record show that I've been looking for front page tech all day today, and he finally shows his face. So what's up, John? How you doing? But for
John
the record,
Prosser is in the chat. He's waving at us with a wavy emoji.
Okay.
Good to see you, John. Good to see
Mr. Leaker.
all right, so I'm going to ask you guys the question that was posed to me. Somebody asked me earlier, what am I looking forward to? What am I most excited about the iPhone SE? And for me, I'm excited about the camera. Like I said, we know it's using the camera lens from the iPhone 8, but it's using the optics or the image signal processor from the 11. So I'm very interested to see how the pictures turn out for the iPhone SE. But I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on what are you most excited about?
Yeah. What am I excited about? Good question. Okay, Zach, I'm gonna pass to you, and I have to think about this for a minute.
Okay, what was the question? Sorry, I got my BMAC thinking cap on.
Yeah. What are you most excited about with the iPhone SE?
I think the price point, and I hate using the summary of just everything. I think the price point is absolutely killer, and given the economics and what's happening in the world right now, I just think it's a no-brainer if you enjoy that ecosystem, and if you want to stay in that ecosystem and don't want to go out of it because of price point. And I also think if you're looking to go towards Apple, it's a gateway drug. There you go.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I can jump off that and say that the thing that I'm most excited about, so it's sort of like not really the phone, but it is the phone. The Apple releasing the iPhone SE is Apple, the company that started the whole, like, let's see how much money we can get out of them for a phone craze, right? They are admitting with the release of this phone that the smartphone wars are over. It's no longer about who can put the most whiz bang doodads inside the phone and charge the most money. It's who can sell the most phones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. Apple was never about putting the most doodads inside the phone ever.
Well, yeah, but the other guys did.
Yeah, the other guys, yes, but Apple has never been about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I mean, Apple has always been, they've always been a luxury brand, a lifestyle brand. You know,
It's more open to anybody now.
Yeah, but now it's at a price range where, like you said, Zach, on a contract, a lot of people are gonna be able to get an iPhone SE for free.
There are I think Rogers up here. I have to double check on this. I was told this by a couple reps. Rogers is offering, if you sign a 2-year agreement or contract, whatever you want to call it, you'll get the SE for free plus $150 bill credit. So here's a phone. Here's an Apple phone, brand new.
Take this phone.
And then $150. Like apparently they'll put $50 every month over the course of 5 months or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or 50 to 3 months, right? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's like they're paying you to take the phone. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Cray.
I wanted to look at Razor 6666 and his $5 super chat comment here. Thank you very much for that $5 super chat. By the way, do you think the iPod's 3rd gen could be as low as $99? That would destroy the competition.
I think he means AirPod.
Yeah, AirPods. But short answer, yes. Yeah, I think that's what they're shooting for. I mean, our resident leaker of Apple things, Mr. John Prosser, has sort of intimated as much. And so, yeah, I think they're going to hit that $99 price point. And I think, I don't know if they'll be like kind of a Power Beats sort of style, or if they'll just be the same kind of AirPods style that we saw with the original AirPods. I don't know what they're gonna look like. But if Apple hits the $99 price point with a pair of AirPods with their proprietary hardware inside, that's the most important thing. That H1 chip is the most important thing about the AirPods. It's what makes them sound better than they should. It's what makes them more convenient than they ought to be. It's it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. That H1 chip is what really makes the AirPods better than most any other headphone if you have an Apple device.
We have another super chat there from Matt McCourt, regular viewer, listener.
Where is Matt's super
Matt, this one's for you.
Oh, Matt. Well, we also Rashid has also hit us with $2, bringing back the Engage.
There you go.
And then 513 from Matt McCourt threw down the gauntlet and served notice to others. Samsung blew it with the S20, and Apple just threw dirt on them. Yeah, Apple took basically Samsung just face planted in the beach, right? They were like trying to do that backflip thing on the beach, and then they just face planted. And Apple, they didn't take a shovel. They didn't go to the hardware store and get a shovel. They took one of those little toy shovels from the Sandbox kit, and they're just little toy shovels scooping dirt onto Samsung, right? They're just covering them up. They're kicking sand in their face by saying, you guys don't get it. And yes, Samsung makes phones in that price range and lower, right? But Samsung this year, I mean, they sort of came out guns blazing, like we got all this fancy Shinola, right? And
Fancy.
that phone has fallen on its face, right? Viper's holding up his S20 Ultra. I see it there.
You see it, yes.
How's that autofocus there, Mr. Vipe?
We won't discuss the autofocus because it's absolutely positively mediocre and atrocious.
Jeez.
I mean, there's a lot of good things about the phone, but the main selling point was the camera, and they fell, like Jason said, flat on their face with this autofocus. So, and when you're charging $1,400, when Apple is coming with a $400 iPhone SE, now they're not in the same class, obviously, but still, it's just like, what is really going on?
Yeah. I like Samsung phones. I'm using the Note 9 right now, and I'm gonna re-review it. You know, I got it.
That was a great note. That was an awesome note.
Yeah, this thing is amazing. I'm enjoying this Note 9 so much, and it's funny because I didn't enjoy the Note 10 this much. I didn't enjoy the S20 this much. I mean, they're nice phones, but this thing is like the last of the kitchen sink phones. Where it just has everything, and it's made at such an amazing build quality. It just feels great, everything like that. It's so Apple has basically said, yes, we'll sell our more expensive phones now, but we'll make more money and have more phones in more pockets by selling a $400 phone than we might ever have been able to do if we had continued to sell $800 to $1,000 phones.
Correct. And you know why that is, Jason? Because Apple realized that when the iPhone sales started declining, they had to find other outlets of revenue to generate they had to generate other streams of revenue for their business. So even though the iPhone SE is only $400, number one, it's going to be probably the best selling smartphone of 2020. But number two, more importantly, that gives people access to services like Apple Music, iCloud, Apple News Plus, Apple TV Plus. I mean, all the different Apple services that they offer now and that these people have access to because they have the $400 iPhone. So
is Apple still giving a year free if you pick up the SE, like Apple TV Plus?
I'm not sure. I don't
know.
Or as I call it, Apple Morning Show.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either. I haven't heard anything about that, but I will say that, and just beyond the new sort of like non-physical sort of content services that they have that are more recent, the whole thing of like the hardware ecosystem is going to be a big deal. Because I saw somebody in the chat earlier, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody in the chat earlier asked if they were going to do if they might do an iPod or iPad SE. And the thing is, like, they kind of already have.
Yeah, they already got that out there.
They've got an iPad out there that you can get for $250.
The 10.9, right, from last year. Yeah.
10.2. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, there's an iPad out there at every price point. It's funny because the iPad Mini 5 is like $250+ more expensive than the low end like 10 point whatever inch iPad. So there's an iPad out there for everybody. I think that's amazing. I think that that's going to be something that it's not just, and for me, it's not just about the fact that it's Apple. I would be excited if any company was able to do this. because it is the democratization of technology. It is eventually going to be a major contributor to the trickle down factor of people being able to get good technology in their hands for less money.
Yep. So we have a. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, we have a question in the chat from Brian D. I think that, do you reckon the iPhone SE2 is a result of slow sales or the economic slump due to the pandemic?
I think
I
it
can
was
tell you
planned.
with certainty, it has nothing to do with the pandemic.
No.
The iPhone SE was in development for years, dude, long before this whole pandemic came up.
I think
This
if
phone was
anything,
coming.
the price point may have not been 400. It may have been 450, and they may have. I mean, we'll never know. But this was always
$399.
Yeah.
Ever since they started talking about this phone, like middle of last year or something like that,
Mhm.
I've always seen $399.
Yeah, but this phone is not a result of the pandemic. This phone was long in development long ago.
And I don't even really think it's so much a reaction to slowing sales for iPhones, because the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 were kind of the answer to that. Okay, so we're now over $1,000 for all of our phones, right? If you just consider when the iPhone was just the smaller and the bigger, right? So now they've made the iPhone the less expensive model, but it's still a really good phone. It makes some compromises that the 11 does, but it's still a really, really, really good phone.
Have either of you guys read the book Primal Branding?
I have it on my iPad. I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
I read most of it. I listened to it on the audiobook.
So without going into like a lot of the detail about it, Primal Branding, I can't remember the author's name. I apologize. But if you have your Audible trial,
Russell Brand,
who's our sponsor,
Primal Brand is a great book to pick up with that free audiobook.
But it's really interesting that if you look back at the history of Apple, they first they burst on the scene with it's just simple, it works and everything, and then it turned into this luxury brand. And so you still have a group of people that are very dedicated. They'll buy it no matter what and everything. But you still have a large population demographic over here, kind of salivating, going, well, it's a little too much. I can get a PC for this much. I can get an Android for this much. And now, they've built up this following, this primal demographic following, and now they've opened the gates for everybody else at all these different price points, and it's really kind of brilliant. I mean, I would bet this has been the plan all along, right?
Author of Primal Branding is Patrick Hanlon.
Yeah, there you go.
Hanlon, yeah,
good book. Yeah,
I need to read that at some point.
Alex with the €5 super chat says others were so busy trying to out Apple that they forgot about the mid-tier side chick, and Apple's claimed the 4 spot, claim that spot for the next decade. I think that's a good point. I think that Apple was the progenitor of the $1,000 phone, and for better or worse, that's the case. And I'm here to tell you that no matter what I'm talking about, if I'm talking about an Android phone, they will remind me. Those people who come into the comments, they will remind me that Apple was the first.
This makes me wonder, with the SE this year, do you think we'll see a 12 Pro and Pro Max, or do you think we'll see just a 12 Pro and a 12 Pro Max, or do you think we'll see?
Supposedly,
no, the lineup is still the lineup.
There's 4 phones supposedly.
Mm.
There's 4 phones that they're coming out with.
Okay,
that's what I've heard. We've got the Pro Max, we've got the regular iPhone 12, and then I think there's like one in the middle there.
So apparently there's going to be a small and a bigger version of the iPhone 12. There's going to be a big, little, then the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting them all this year, but they're going to be delayed, according to Mean Chi Ko, who says that iPhone 12 production won't even start until September. So they're going to be delayed this year.
Yeah. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see an iPhone 12 this year. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, because there's just so much going on, And if Apple's not going to start manufacturing them until September, like I don't know how long it takes them to reach critical mass numbers in terms of manufacturing in order to be able to release a phone. But we're talking at least October, possibly November.
Yeah.
And then they have to ramp up the marketing machine. Then they have to do all that stuff. So I really don't know when we're going to see it, because November, December is not the time to launch a brand new phone, especially coming out of a pandemic where, millions of people lost their jobs.
Another super chat here.
I mean,
Yes. So Mishrik, $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much. I asked last year if you thought Apple would ever release an old style phone again with Touch ID and brand it the iPhone Classic. You said never. I was nuts. Well, look what a difference a year makes.
Hey. Technically, it is not called the iPhone Classic, so he was right. It's not called the iPhone Classic.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really never thought that they would go back to Touch ID. I remember having this conversation many times with Zach and just having this general conversation about whether or not Touch ID would be a thing. And Apple's MO, my rationale for that is that Apple's MO with their sort of security systems has been they'll use one and only one, and that you take it or you leave it. So I assumed that they would kind of do that. And now, I mean, this looks like a brilliant play. This looks like a brilliant play coming in right at this moment. Yes, it's been planned for a long time. Yes, they've, you could be cynical and say, well, I mean, they have X number of iPhone 8 bodies left, and so, they just figured they'd make phones. But still, that's not going to matter to the people that buy the phone, right? That's not going to matter to the people who get an iPhone SE and maybe they haven't upgraded since the iPhone 5. Maybe they haven't upgraded, so, they've been waiting and they haven't been able to afford it, or haven't been able to just, they didn't want to go with the Face ID or whatever. So this phone is going to outsell. I'm going to say it right now. Bold prediction: this phone will outsell every phone.
Evenly.
Every phone.
It should be interesting because Apple doesn't release numbers anymore, so we'll have to rely on numbers either from actual numbers.
Confident in
my
prediction.
Apple will probably come up with their usual statement. This is the best-selling iPhone ever. But I think we can also look to some of the carriers as well for actual numbers. So,
all right, here's the interesting thing about this iPhone SE release. Again, the pre-orders went live 2 days after a lot of people got their stimulus checks. And crazy as it is, a lot of people are going to use that money to purchase this iPhone SE. So you talk about stimulus checks on top of the fact that we're already talking about a $400 iPhone, which is very good for what it's offering. Hell, yes, it's going to be the best-selling phone of 2020. It's not going to really have much competition because, like Jason said, we don't even know what's happening at the later parts of the year. Now, I was talking to I asked Max Weinbach earlier today if Samsung is experiencing any delays with their phone coming later this year, and he said he hadn't heard anything. But I got to believe that with the Note 20 and the Fold 2 and things like that, even if they do come out, those phones are going to be over $1,000 easily. And again, how many people are buying $1,000 phones at the end of a pandemic? It's just not happening.
Well, I've heard that Samsung is generally still on track.
Yep.
That's what I've heard, is that in terms of manufacturing these phones, they're generally still on track. However, like you say, I mean, if the Note 20, if they have a Note 20 Ultra, or the Note 20 Plus, or whatever they have, if they have a top end Note phone, like that thing's going to be over $1,500
easily,
right? Easily, and pushing probably $1,800-$1,900, and that's crazy town.
That's a no. Not this year.
That's absolute crazy town. They're talking about maybe the Fold 2 will be somehow slightly cheaper than the Fold 1, and I just saw today that it's going to have S Pen support, and I mean, it looks like it's a better version of what they came out with last year, which it ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like Samsung sort of like put their money on the, a lot of their money on the wrong horse for 2020.
Yeah.
I don't see I don't see a lot of people going out with. It was already hard with a like $600-700 iPhone out there to go over and look at a $1,400 or $1,000 or a $1,200 Samsung phone. It's already that's already a hard sell.
Here's the thing though, like, okay, so we're talking about price points right now, and we all know here from the various conversations we had, Samsung typically floods the market. But what devices do we hear about day in, day out? It's always the Galaxy, always the high end stuff.
I was just about to say that. I never hear them like market those other ones.
You don't see at least I don't see ever a big push either online or in reviews or posters on walls and stores, etc. of these, like, the A23 or what, or the J20, like the J23 was one of the biggest sellers here in Canada 2 years ago.
Right.
Those are fantastic devices. You know what the main difference between them and a Galaxy is? Plastic. That's it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the reason that you don't see them market them is because they don't have to, right? Yeah. They basically have to. They want to wow the public with all the bells and whistles of the flagship models, right? And they are beautiful phones, and they have all kinds of great features, and they're very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to the phones that the most people are going to buy from Samsung, they don't have to put those into a glitzy ad package.
Yeah. I didn't even know that those phones existed until 2 years ago.
Yeah. If you look at Samsung Mobile's their sellers, the devices that make the most profit for them are always their tier 2 and tier 3 devices. Those ones that are not the Galaxies and everything like that. Those are their flagships to show here's everything in the kitchen sink. But then when the customer goes into the store, into a carrier or whatever, or even to a Samsung Experience store or whatever, you're going to have all those options. People are, depending on their finances, they might gravitate towards a tier 2 device, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm going to say something somewhat inflammatory.
No way.
No way.
I would say that if you're going to buy an Android phone, you might be best served buying a tier 2 or 3 phone that doesn't cost as much, because you're only going to get a couple of years of OS updates. And so why do you want to spend so much money on a phone that's going to be outdated within 3 years?
That's not inflammatory. That's common sense.
Well, I mean, it's common sense, but people get mad.
How many average consumers or people that are upgrading their phone every few years actually know that, though? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we talk about it because it does matter, but the majority of people don't know that. They don't think they could be on Android, 7 and they wouldn't know, right?
That's true.
The majority of people, as long as the phone works, for most people, it's fine. Yeah. It's when it becomes a problem when the phone doesn't work anymore, and that's when they go get a new phone. Now, Mech 1164 here had a super chat, $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Do you think the new SE after this will be the iPhone 10 shell?
Probably.
Yeah. Now, if they do that, and no notch, just so the last SE was 2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 4 years later, we get the second SE. So 4 years from now, in 2024, I hope to hell that the notch is gone by 2024. I mean, come on now, people. Come on.
But obviously, if it's going to be an iPhone SE, it'll probably have a notch because, again, it'll be like the older design. But actually, somebody was asking in the chat earlier, we're going to actually get another iPhone SE next year. We're going to get the iPhone SE Plus. Yeah. For whatever reason, I'm guessing due to the pandemic, it got delayed.
Right.
And it won't be out with this 4.7-inch model that's coming out Friday. But we're going to get a 5.5-inch iPhone SE supposedly next year. Don't really know how they're going to market that, given that the other one is already going to be out for a year. But I guess it's coming. So,
well, the thing is, like, the 5.5-inch iPhone SE, like, so basically a plus model, an 8 Plus model.
Yep.
That is, I mean, it's got a much bigger screen. I'm going to guess that they'll charge $500 for it.
Yep.
because so $499 because the iPhone 10R is already in the $549 $600 range, and the 11 is $600 and up, right? So yeah, I mean that could be really attractive to a lot of people. I think that Apple will cover all the bases that they need to cover by having a Plus model SE phone, and just, man, at that point, like right now, I still think that the best deal in smartphones right now, barring the SE, because it's still in the future by a couple of days, but still, I still think that the best deal in smartphones right now, as Zach has said so many times, is like last year or the year before's flagship phone.
2020 is a great year to get a 2019 phone.
Yeah. I because you're not getting that much more. I know now from using this Note 9 for the past week and a half, whatever I've been using it for. Battery life, I'm at 82%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't been using it heavily today, but battery life is great. Fit finish is great. It's used, but you never know it. I could use this phone for the next 2 or 3 years and not have any kind of problem.
And I have to really question, like I have the Note 10 Plus here, which you guys know I absolutely love this phone, everything about it. I really have to wonder if the Note 20 this year is going to be that great of an upgrade. I'll tell you this much, given the autofocus issues on the S20 line, it makes me really question.
Well, here's the question. Like, what could they possibly do to make the Note 20 worth the upsell?
It's going to be a spec bump. So you'll see like 120 hertz quad H, you probably see that, right? Given that they only did FHD 120 on the Galaxy 20 line there.
Right.
But we'll probably see that. Are you going to see the return of the headphone jack and like, no, you're not. But other than that, I can't see what else are you going to add to it. Maybe another camera?
When I asked Max Lineback this exact question earlier this year, he told me the Note 20 Ultra is going to be the Galaxy S20 Ultra, only more flattened out like the Note lines look. Yeah. It's not going to be much different.
With an S
Pen,
yeah.
And the S Pen software, yeah.
That's it.
So,
which would make sense.
I mean, the Note line used to be a big departure from
hell yes
the S line.
I miss those days.
Yep. Where like the S line was a perfectly good phone, and the average person would be really, really satisfied with having the S line phone. Mm-hmm. Then they made the bigger one, and people had choice or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the Note phone was like you were buying something special when you bought the Note.
The Galaxy, the S line before it was kind of like a preview, and then the Note was just like, here's polished and everything.
Yeah, here's the best that we can do this year. Mm-hmm. This is all the bells and whistles, all the stuff. The best phone that Samsung could possibly make this year, and it's a monster, and it's a power user phone, and it's still a monster, and it's still a power user phone. But when I look at the S20 Ultra, having used that for the time that I used it, knowing what I know about what the Note 20 is going to be like, there's not that much difference. There's not going to be that much difference. And there will be the 120 hertz screen. Maybe there'll be a slightly bigger battery. I honestly can't think of 5G because
for all those 5G towers that are out there, they're freaking everywhere, right?
Yeah, I love when people are like, "Well, it doesn't have 5G." I'm like, what the hell do you care?
For what 5G?
Yeah, it's like you can't get 5G almost anywhere on the planet. Almost, like there are probably more tigers in the wild than there are places that you can get 5G service. There's a little Tiger King discussion there.
Yeah. That bitch Carol Baskin.
Oh man.
Oh, it hurts me. Anyway,
I need to get that sound clip on here.
Oh man, yeah.
Let me jump in real quick here. This is a different type of year. You know this is a different type of year when my man Zach over there has no interest in the Galaxy S20 line of devices, but he pre-orders an iPhone SE. That is 2020 in a nutshell right there. That's all 2020.
I know. I haven't had a drink in like months.
But I remember saying we talked about this before, like right as the year was ending. I put out that the smartphone era is over. Phone, the war has ended. Nobody won. Android is what it is. iPhone is what it is. The next war is going to be for pockets. And here's Apple, like with a major offensive on the pockets of folks that they couldn't reach before.
Here's another subject I think that this conversation is dead, except for really dug in their spec nerds and everything like that. And I don't mean spec nerds. I don't or spec geeks. I don't mean to say that in like a derogatory term. I don't mean to make funny people like that, because we all here are like that. I think the conversation of like Apple versus Android is kind of done. Like you have your preferred system. The majority of the buying public, the average, quote unquote, average consumer, has their preferred type of ecosystem, and you go forward from there. There's obviously a much smaller population, much smaller sliver of the pie of people that can go in between everything like that. Right. Do you know what I mean? I think that conversation is done. What do you guys think about that?
Like I think Jason talked about this in a video a while ago. The war is already it's been over for a while.
Yeah,
I mean they both do the same thing. They just go about it in different ways. But at the end of the day, they both do the same exact thing. So there's really no war.
Yeah,
I think that for the majority of people, whichever operating system you started out on is the one that you prefer, without hesitation.
I don't know about that. I can't co-sign that, because I had an Android before I had an iPhone, and
so did I. But again, we're different. We're different, right? Because I mean, I was figuring out ways to, remember when we had a 2-year deal and you had to keep the phone for 2 years? Mm-hmm. I was figuring out how to get new phones like every 6 months.
I want to. Yeah. No, but here's the thing though. When you say that the operating system that you first started off with is the one that you probably prefer, remember, we are techies though, but I just told you that I prefer iOS. Now, when I had Android, I used to be a hardcore tooting Android machine. I used to root phones, customize them through custom ROMs and mods them and things like that. I was hardcore into it. But then I got my first iPhone in 2011, and I saw how easy and just fluid iOS worked, and how it just did what I wanted it to do. And then I didn't have to like replace every other app under the sun. I just prefer not having to do that much work on my phone now. I love the fact that you can do that on Android, but for me, it's just too much work. So now I prefer iOS.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like I prefer picking up my Note and doing everything on it all day, every day. But the most important thing for me is the camera. And I'm not saying that the Note 10 Plus camera is bad. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that I can pick up the iPhone and snap the picture once, and I know that I don't even have to preview that after, and I'm going to be happy, and I can move on and do whatever like I'm on vacation, whatever like that. With the Note, unless things are still, and I've got to, I usually have to take that photo 2 or 3 times, and that's not, again, like I said, it's not to take away. It's just that it's just the iOS experience has been smooth.
Zach, oh my God. I am so glad you didn't get in that 20 Ultra. You probably throw it out the window.
Oh,
I cannot tell you how many pictures I had to take a picture to get the right one on the S20.
Well, I'll tell you this: when the Ultra was released and everything, and everybody was placing their orders, and I saw all these tweets and everything, I had it in my cart there, and it was with taxes, it was like $1,950 some odd dollars Canadian, right? Because of the conversion or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I really love my wife, and I want to stay married. So I'm going to leave this in the, basket. And then I'm like, you know what? I think I'll just wait to see how people are, like the reactions. And then when I saw the negativity, I'm just like, remove from basket.
Yeah, the lotion from the basket.
Exactly. Not too much.
Yeah. I mean, this was the first time that I was just kind of like, so usually I'll get the S-Line phone, and I'll have been using a Note and an iPhone for the second half of the year or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I'll get that S-Line phone, and I'll be like, oh man, this is really great. I want to keep this phone. I like it for XYZ reasons, right? This was the first year where I was just like, it's a nice phone, but I was not really feeling all that bad about taking it back to the store.
Mm.
You know, I just wasn't. I was like, okay, sure. But then again, it's a value proposition. What is the price to performance value proposition for the S20 Ultra?
Mhm.
Is the S20 Ultra worth $1,400 to me? No, because it's not $1,000 more phone than this Note 9. It's not $1,000 more than this Note 9, which that you can get for $350 on Amazon right now. So smartphones have become so good, and the quality has been such for long enough now that you can go back 2 and 3 years and find phones that are still really, really good phones that will cost you fractions of what the new phones will cost.
One of my favorite devices was the S9 Plus.
Yeah.
I love that phone. That was a great phone. I like that purple color. By the way, recipes for your
Oh,
anniversary of
man.
Princess Death.
The S9 Plus, Bon Marie. That phone produced the word immediately.
Yeah. That was I like that purple phone. There's a bunch of purple phones that year. I did a whole video about purple phones that year.
Hey, Zach, do you remember the story of how I came up with the word?
No.
Funny story. I came up with the word immediately because I was having an issue with the S9 autofocus.
Oh,
Wow. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I know, right?
yeah. And so, yeah. I mean, I like the S9 phones, but the Note 9 to me was like as close to perfect as you could get in that at that time.
That phone was a beast.
And you know, this is the 6 gigabyte 128 gig storage version.
Mhm.
But they have an 8 gigabyte 128. They have an 8 gigabyte 512.
But let's be serious for a second. We know why Jason loves the Note 9. We know why.
Headphone jack.
Exactly. Bam.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. The fact that it has a headphone jack is a big deal to me.
You know, if you guys know who GB is, she has a ASMR channel. I bet you if she did a whole like 20-minute thing of going headphone jack, headphone, Jason would be just right there. Click.
Speaking of a headphone jack, Jason, Winner, I thought you were going to acquire the LG V60 at some point. Are you still doing that, or?
I am. I had somebody reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm gonna do a buy one get one, and I'll send the other one to you." And then that person disappeared. So,
Damn it.
So I have to make other plans. What I've found with LG phones is it doesn't matter if you're like early reviewing the LG phones.
No, nobody reviews them.
Yeah.
Nobody.
No,
Yeah,
ain't
so-
nobody buying that. Not even Carol Baskin.
God, what have we started? What have we
Well,
started?
So here's the thing, Retethered Tech. I would not tell you to buy a phone off of eBay because I have been burned by eBay so many times, both as a seller and as a purchaser.
Our friend Jonathan Morrison was most recently very much burned through eBay.
Yeah.
He shipped off, I think it was an iMac.
Right?
Yep.
Oh, was it the iMac Pro? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's out that money now.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me with the Note 10 or with the iPhone 10. I ended up getting 2 iPhone 10s because I ordered one and then it looked like it was going to be delayed until the evening to be delivered. So I got up and I went to the store and I got another one. So I sold one, and it sold immediately. And the money actually came into my account. Money actually came into my account. It was in my PayPal account. So I sent the phone, but the money hadn't cleared. And this was, they're much more specific about this now than they were then. Basically, these people had used like a dummy account, and the money never existed. it was like, because there's this way that if you're buying internationally, there's something about how the bank transactions go, that you have this window of time or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they were using that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be for that window of time you're talking about. It's supposed to be for fraud detection and prevention, but it can be used against. Yeah.
So I was really worried, because that was at a time when it's always a big deal to lose $1,000, but losing $1,000 3 years ago for me was a much bigger deal, because I wasn't nearly as popular and wealthy as I am now.
I want to pivot really quick, because this was one of our topics.
By the way,
I saw a bunch of videos. I never thought I'd see videos from. I shouldn't. How do I phrase this? I was surprised to see some creators, some of the bigger creators, bigger tech tubers, covering this. The Magic Keyboard for the new iPad Pro. It also works for the 2018 and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I can't believe there's such a big deal about this thing, but I guess it's because of the pass through and the angle and the quality and everything like that. What do you guys' take on that? Like, I had here's the original. Like, this is the one you could buy before. This is the original.
Yep.
And I don't use it a lot to type myself and everything like that. But this new one looks pretty hardcore. I mean,
yeah. Apparently it's heavy and it has some density to it, so it holds the iPad in place pretty well when you have the iPad attached to it. It's definitely legit. I don't want to buy one now because I kind of want to get a newer iPad. I want to get a 12.9 inch. Right now I got an 11 inch. So I kind of want to wait until I'm able to get a 12.9 inch iPad before I buy the Magic Keyboard. But yeah, man, if I wasn't buying a new iPad, I'd have had that one in a heartbeat. Whoo!
Yeah, I definitely want one. And I will say this with no reservations. The Smart Keyboard, it has always been and will always be trash. That thing, you cannot tell me that typing on that like weird sticky fabric is in any way an acceptable experience.
when you say which keyboard are you talking about? Which one?
You're talking about the one you have in your hand.
Yeah.
The one I have?
Yep.
Because it's not felt or anything like that. It's
got that weavy,
whatever it is, it's not normal.
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
But yeah, it's unnatural. I agree with him. It's not natural.
I mean, LG makes probably in terms of the keyboard, LG makes probably the best iPad.
You mean Logic?
to be
You mean Logic?
Logitech, yes.
To be completely fair, I use the Folio more than anything, but that's because I don't do a lot of typing on mine.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. This was in the news yesterday, and I mentioned it in the video that I put out yesterday that not enough people have watched it. So if you haven't watched it, go watch yesterday's video. But the Magic Keyboard makes the iPad more like heavier than the MacBook Air.
Yeah, I think
I
Marquez
saw
said that.
Marquez's video. Yeah.
Which isn't really surprising, because if I held up my iPad Pro inside of that Logitech keyboard case, and then I held up my MacBook Pro, the MacBook Pro is easily like between 1/4 and 1/2 inch thinner, and it's also lighter than the iPad.
Well, the Magic Keyboard itself is heavier than the actual iPad, so I guess that makes a lot of sense.
I'm looking for, like, this is a first gen. So if this is how well the first gen was built, and good on Apple for making it compatible with both the 2018 iPad Pro, both sizes, and the new one. I'm looking forward to see what they can do in the future. But like, I'm on the side with Marquez as well. Like, if I had to choose between, my MacBook, an actual laptop, or this, based on my workflow, I'm going for an actual laptop for now.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. And this was another thing that I talked about in the video yesterday, was the fact that there's some indication in some of the coding of iOS 14 that says maybe pro apps like Final Cut, it'll be possible for them to be ported over to iOS.
That's exciting. Yeah.
And so that's been my big thing, is no Logic Pro, no Final Cut.
Yep.
And for the most part, it's not because there aren't other options out there that aren't good options. I mean, LumaFusion is great.
Yep.
And so there are good options on the iPad out there, but I've already paid for Final Cut. and Logic Pro.
Yep.
and I don't want to have to go. I don't want to have a fractured thing. I don't want to have a fractured like sort of experience where
Right.
I'm working. I have to export out of Logic in order to open something up on the iPad in a different program. So it's important that those things become cross-platform. I think eventually, I mean, this is another capitulation on Apple's part. I mean, they've made a certain capitulation in terms of the iPhone SE. You know, they basically said, we recognize that the cheaper phones will sell more, and so we're going to make a cheaper phone better than most any other company could make a cheaper phone. And they're doing the same thing with the Magic Keyboard, except in the opposite direction.
Right.
They're like, okay, so we've been messing around with these like plasticky things and just sort of getting by with these smart keyboards. The iPad has not been like a real competitor for your desktop, at least not in Apple terms, but now it is.
All right, so here's my thing. I, like you, have used LumaFusion. I used it for like 6-7 months when I first started doing YouTube. So I know how good of a program it is, and it will definitely work for any creator doing YouTube and things like that.
Right.
But I have Final Cut Pro, and baby, let me tell you, Final Cut Pro is in a league of its own. Even if there was a Final Cut Pro on iPad, chances are it will not be as fully fleshed out as the one from Mac OS. So
let me ask you guys this about LumaFusion. So, for example, one of the plugin programs that you and I think a lot of people that use Final Cut on that are tech tubers, we use MInstaller, which is different.
Motion VFX, yep.
Yeah, motion VFX. So they have different, lower thirds and transitions to this and that.
Yeah,
does LumaFusion
enough to pay money for that stuff?
does LumaFusion offer anything like that, or is there a third party that does anything like that?
I mean, LumaFusion has like some of that stuff built in, but it's nothing like motion VFX. Nothing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you take away the third-party stuff that you can get for Final Cut, like if you just had to use Final Cut like as it comes, like,
well, you might as well use iMovie then.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. I got a little bit of a rant on Final Cut.
Uh-oh.
So yesterday I was all pissed off. I was really like,
that's weird. You never get angry.
I know. But I was awake early again, so I had a script written and ready to start shooting at like 8:30 in the morning, right? And so I'm like, I can get this out before noon, and then I go over to my computer to do the Final Cut thing, and no audio's coming out. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I can listen to YouTube, I can listen to iTunes, I can listen to whatever. Everything else is working fine, but Final Cut is not playing audio. And so I had to spend all day yesterday. I had to do both the video plus I had to do an ad for an upcoming sponsorship. I had to do the thing where it's like, well, I need to hear this, so I got to pull the MacBook out and then go like plug some headphones in or whatever. And it just was a really big pain in the rear end. I did remember, however, when I was awake at 3 a.m, that my audio interface has 24 inputs and outputs, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And most of the rest of everything will just go with what the Apple system says is the correct audio output. So in this case, channels 21 and 22 are supposed to be your regular output channels.
Okay.
But Final Cut does not follow the lead of the system. And have you ever looked at the preferences panels in Final Cut? I mean, they are ridiculous. It's like kindergarten level controls. And there's nowhere that you can select an interface. There's nowhere where you can you can't change anything. So basically I remembered that I just have to, whenever I want to use Final Cut, remember that Final Cut's always going to come out of channels 1 and 2. So whatever I've got on channels 1 and 2, like whatever I'm doing music wise or anything like that, I have to reset those 2 channels and use those for Final Cut. So that just really, really frustrates me because it is a professional, it's called Final Cut Pro, and yet you can't change the audio output. You can't make it even follow the system output. Anyway, it made yesterday a lot more of a pain in the rear end than it had to be.
That's where you need to pick up loopback.
I know I have loopback too, but I just was like, well, I don't feel like going. I was just like, I want to get the work done now, because I was on a roll, and so yeah, it was just really frustrating, and that's kind of the problem with Final Cut, that back when Final Cut went from Final Cut 7 to Final Cut Pro 10 or whatever they call it, a lot of the people who used Final Cut got really mad because they made it a much easier to use piece of software. It still was very powerful, but it was nowhere near as sort of like, you could get down deep in the weeds kind of as you could with the previous version. Now, Premiere Pro from Adobe, it also, Premiere Pro, you can do so many things, and if you're a professional, you can do them in the way that you think you can, right? Like if you want to type a title on your video, you select the type tool and you type. In Final Cut, you've got to go find the thingy, and drag it in there, and then you can type.
Yeah, it's you got that whole inspector thing. It takes, once you know, but it's not as intuitive,
right,
as what it could be. I'll fully admit the reason that I use Final Cut is because of the render speeds and how quick it is with the Mac and third-party integration. Otherwise, I do have LumaFusion on my iPad, and I have used it a handful of times here. But because there's not as much third-party integration with lower thirds and this and that I know of, and I've already made a sizable investment with the third-party stuff I have, but I just stick with Final Cut, right?
The motion VFX.
They take all my money.
Gotta avoid that website.
But you know what? Good on them for keeping things updated. Like it's a one-time purchase, right?
Thank God. Yeah.
Which is nice, right?
Yeah, it's man, it's interesting because I actually had to. So the studio tour that I did a couple of weeks ago, I filmed most of that with my iPhone 11, and so I had 4K 60 frames footage. Which
did you use a gimbal or anything like that for stabilization?
I just used a Joby GorillaPod.
There you go. Okay.
But the stabilization in the iPhone is pretty good.
Yeah, even on the 11. Yeah.
Yeah. So I then I wanted to transfer it. And I think I talked about this before. I wanted to transfer it, but AirDrop is amazing if you want to send something that's like, not a gigabyte.
As long as the files are small.
But if you want to send something bigger, then AirDrop is going to choke like a third grader at the foul line.
I had the same thing when I was in Mexico recording those one-on-one interviews with my iPhone 11 Pro Max. Yeah. So here I am like this. I'm holding the phone. Like I literally just used the phone and me holding like this. And when it came time to transfer the files to my iPad, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll go down for Name That Tune at the pool for the next hour and a half, and then I'll come back and I can finish editing this. Yeah.
I ended up using LumaFusion on the iPhone. To edit that whole video, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. I couldn't do all the things that I could do, within Final Cut, but I could do a basic edit really easily, really well.
And as long as the content's there, that's all you really need, right?
So. Yeah. But in terms of like, I've been like putting the little staticky things and all those new things in there. I couldn't do that stuff.
Yeah.
I could have. But it would have been like extra steps to get it available to me.
Yeah, it's a familiarity thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like I bet you, like for example, our friend Travis MCP, he uses LumaFusion on the iPad Pro,
Yeah.
and he does a phenomenal job with that. But I bet you if you put him in front of Final Cut, it might take him a little bit longer, right? So
Yeah, especially since he's a PC guy.
yeah, well, yeah, big difference right there. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, that's one thing, and I was talking about this in my video yesterday. That's one thing about the iPad that it has going for it is you can do 4K 60 frames per second video on an iPhone 11, right? With no hiccups, no beach balls, no nothing. And then you can export that out super quickly. But if you tried to do that on a MacBook Air,
forget about it.
Yeah. Even a higher spec MacBook Air, because it doesn't have any graphics card.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So the A series chips that are in the iPads are, for all intents and purposes, so much more powerful than anything that's in the laptop series that Apple has, right? And it's only a matter of time. Imagine what's going to happen when Apple finally can put something like the A series chip in their laptops. It's going to be like it'll be unbelievable.
Yeah,
it'll be unbelievable. But I really think that by the time that happens, the iPad Pro will have replaced the MacBook Air.
I can see that happening because, like, for example, like I said a few weeks ago when I was talking to my folks about upgrading their phones, this and that, my dad has like an older MacBook Pro with all the ports and everything. It has like the HDMI port and USB-A and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so he's eyeing a MacBook Pro. And I said to him, well, listen, if you're not looking at doing video editing or photo editing, which he's not,
Right.
Let's get you a MacBook Air. And then my mom said, well, what about one of the iPads with an added-on keyboard? And I'm like, you know what? For what you guys do, that 10.9 from last year plus a keyboard, that might be the solution. So
no, I think I think the iPad is maturing to the point, and iPad, and now that we have iPad OS, it's maturing to the point where it's easier to stop using a laptop and get most of the things done that you would want to get done on an iPad. Like my MacBook Pro sits behind my monitor there 99% of the time. I took it out yesterday for the first time since I redid this whole configuration of the studio. And upstairs in the rest of the house, I just have my MacBook Pro or my iPad Pro. And that's what I use for everything.
Yeah, I can now that you mentioned it, I can really see a future of the MacBook Air going bye-bye. And then for Apple saying, here's these 2 or 3 different levels of iPads, plus add on whatever keyboard or whatever you want. And then if you need to do video or picture editing, here's our laptop line, which is called the MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
For the record, Jason has a hate relationship with the MacBook Pro. Just saying.
Man,
I like mine. I put a Decepticon logo on mine. It looks cool.
This MacBook Pro that I have now is better than any MacBook Pro that I'd had in the previous 3 times that I bought a MacBook Pro. I mean, it functions properly most of the time. And so I got the 2019 i9 version before it was the 16-inch. I got the 15.4 i9 version, and it's been a really good computer. I've had really 0 problems with it whatsoever. However, 6 of one. Anyway, I can't remember what that saying is. 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
That saying.
Yeah, that's the one. I would rather have a spec'd out Mac Mini as opposed to this MacBook Pro. If I could spend the amount of money that I would spend on replacing this MacBook Pro on a Mac Mini, plus I'd have to get an eGPU. I don't know if it would be as efficient. That's the thing. You get into this gray area where you make trade-offs.
Yeah, you and I have discussed this many times.
Yeah.
Once you add this on, you might as well get that. Like Apple knows, right? They balance it just,
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I'll probably end up getting whatever the next MacBook Pro upgrade is,
Mhm.
like whatever the next version of the 16-inch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just decided that I was going to stop trying to find the perfect computer.
Yeah.
I was on that train for a while, and going back and forth between Windows and Mac, and I just none of them are perfect.
Yeah.
And none of them, like, I think at the end of the day, Windows more often had more problems with audio and video production than the Macs do.
Yeah.
And so I just went back to the Mac for all that creative stuff. I mean, I'm on a Windows PC right now,
Mhm.
and I use this for live streaming and everything else. So Wes asks, is the static stuff that I do in my videos now done in Final Cut? Yeah, it's basically, I found a clip of like 3 minutes of radio static, and so I have the transitions that look, the little VHS, sort of like the tape got messed up transitions, and I just throw that transition in, and then I grab a piece of that radio stuff, and I drop it down below, and that's it could probably be done a lot more fluidly. But
I think it looks cool. It looks good.
yeah, I like the effect. But yeah, I'm sure that you could get like some kind of suite of something
There's a bunch of stuff with him too.
that would do all that stuff. I mean, I did buy the transitions, like I don't think it was Motion VFX. I think it was like the other one. Audio Jungle. What is it? Envato, something like that. I got like VHS transitions and titles and stuff from them, because I've been trying to do this somewhat 80s themed thing, and it was only I usually won't spend more than $20 or $30 on those things, so it wasn't that expensive. And now I just and now I use that static as just like I did it at first where it was just a transition with the video, with the VHS like gnarliness, and I was like, something's not right, because it didn't have any accompanying, like, I figured out that it's just like, well, it doesn't have any accompanying sound, so that was the problem. So I went and figured out what the sound should be, which I mean, it's fun. I really like doing it. I figure there's a way that I could put together a template where I could edit videos a lot faster than I do, but I'm still pretty fast as it is, even if I have to do stuff like, piecemeal. That's one thing about Final Cut that's weird, is that the way that it does all of its libraries and all that other weird stuff, like, I don't know. It's really hard to say, like, I'm just going to use this one thing. I'm going to create, like, out of this one new project every time, and use all this stuff. Like, every time I've tried to do that, something gets messed up. But that's probably user error. So, yeah.
I bet you it's because it doesn't have a headphone jack.
Probably. No, my MacBook Pro has a headphone jack.
Okay, there you go.
All
Hey,
right.
you know what? We're coming up on an hour and a
We
half.
are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. So we're coming up toward the end, but I know Zach wanted to get a OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro discussion in there. Me and Zach have talked about this, so I'll start with you, Jason. What are your thoughts on the OnePlus devices?
Man.
Short, tweet, and to the point, man. All right.
I mean, they're OnePlus devices. I mean, they're pretty cool looking. I mean, it's kind of like the Toyota Camry of Android phones. There's nothing all that special about it. And yeah, so I think they've made a huge mistake by going to the price points that they've gone to. Again, like you see them making the climb that I think they had always planned to make. I think they always planned to start as like the budget flagship killer, and then make their way up to the big time.
Yeah, it was right around the OnePlus 5 or 5T. I remember reading a statement from Carl Pye for one of those guys, one of the top guys, saying that we're going to take a loss for the next 2 or 3 years on purpose and only make our profits from the accessories, so we can gain the trust and the way that people want this, but we ultimately want our devices to be at this level. And if you look at their strategy, they've always wanted to be at this level, which is, not necessarily the price level, but they've always wanted to have all of the features and be able to say, okay, we have wireless charging just like so and so, we have this just like so and so, we have an IP rating just like so and so, and with that comes a price point. And yes, there are their ride or die fans, which they are definitely going to depend on for it to take off. But there's definitely a segment of their fan base that's probably taking a step back, going, "Whoa, you became everything you guys stood against."
Yeah. Retethered Tech has a good point here in the chat. He says, "Imagine if the OnePlus 8 Pro cost $600. Everybody would be talking about that phone, because that would be a flagship killer.
Yep.
That would make Samsung, that would hit Samsung closer to home than Apple releasing a $400 iPhone." And Alan, always providing us with material. Apple released a Yugo, and you're praising them now and crapping on OnePlus. Okay, so if the iPhone SE is a Yugo, it's a Yugo with like a Hemi engine inside, right? That's what matters about the iPhone 4 or the iPhone SE, is that it has that A13 chip. It is going to be a beast of a phone for minor ducats.
That chip makes the iPhone SE more powerful than practically every other Android phone in existence.
Yeah. Will it take OnePlus changing their fonts to change your opinion of the OnePlus phones? It'll probably have to be something a little bit more than the fonts, but the fonts would be a good start. The OnePlus font, getting rid of that OnePlus font would be a good start. Let's just say.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Exactly. Did you know that John Turturro and like other people, they've made a Jesus movie? Jesus from the Big Lebowski.
Jesus movie, really?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So they've made a movie where he was in prison and he gets out of prison. I don't know. It looked really weird. It's not like the Coen brothers or anything else. I don't know. It's just very, very strange.
I love that movie, Big Lebowski. I'm the dude, man.
Big Lebowski. Today the 5. Okay, so maybe are we done talking about the tech that we wanted to?
I was going to say we should transition out, and I want to say, I put this in the chat earlier, but at one point I saw 171 of you. There's now 157. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, everybody. Thank you so much.
We appreciate all the super chats and all the good chats, and even the people that are wrong. We appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Woo!
Thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness.
And allowing us to have the material that we need in order to create this podcast. We need wrong people. We
need wrong people. Jeepers.
Wow.
So today on Twitter, it was going around the five perfect films, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I just did like a quick list of my own of things that I could think of off the top of my head. The Big Lebowski would have been one of them, and I didn't think of it. But I came up with Godfather 2, It's a Wonderful Life, Empire Strikes Back.
There you go.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, and one other one that I'm not remembering right now. But then I realized that, like, of my 5 most perfect movies, Harrison Ford was in 3 of them.
I mean, I have a man crush on Harrison Ford. He's a sexy guy. I'll admit it.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I've always liked Harrison Ford, but I've always been like, he's Harrison Ford.
Yeah. I mean, his name is Harrison.
I know. That's crazy.
How
did he get away with that for so long?
I don't that's his birth name. It's not some.
I know. How did he survive childhood with that name?
I was thinking about top 5 movies, and there's so many, but my number one top movie, I think I've talked about this before. My number one top movie is
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Oh, yeah. It's so good for his time. Number 1 for me is going to be Rain Man.
Huh, okay.
Followed by Dances with Wolves,
Okay.
Die Hard,
Okay.
Fried Green Tomatoes.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I really like fried green tomatoes.
Yeah.
Like both the food and the movie.
Yeah.
and number 5 would be probably Empire Strikes Back. But I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on when you grew up too. I think that plays heavily in a lot of people's thought process about.
if you want to laugh and cry and be angry and everything at the same time and everything, just Rain Man. Dustin Hoffman is so brilliant in that. Him and Tom Cruise.
It's a very good movie.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, Big Lebowski. Yeah, that should have been in my list, but
Yeah.
I know that you said that you. So let's give people something to watch.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, let's get Viper's top 5 movies. Top of your head, man. Go.
Ooh, I got a Demolition Man, Speed,
Okay.
The Dark Knight,
Okay.
and I'm blanking on the other 2. I'm looking here. Let's see, we got anything in? Let's go Casino Royale, the 2006 Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. That was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it was a good one.
And man, what's the last one? I don't. So many movies to pick and choose from. Good lord, I don't even.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. Go.
No.
Wonder Woman was a good movie, as DC movies go, but perfect, perhaps not.
Actually, you know what? Number 5 can be Infinity War. That movie was damn good.
There you go. Infinity War. So we were talking about earlier on Twitter, like thing. I think I just mentioned it really briefly. So if you're looking for a show, okay, so we're each gonna recommend a show or series and a movie right now that's available on Netflix, because I'm going to assume the majority of our audience listening and watching has Netflix. Most people do. It seems like they've had a surge. Okay, so for number 1, for movies, I know this movie came out 2 years ago. For movies, I just watched it last night. I'm going to watch it again tonight with my wife. Tag. Have you seen this? Tag? Where these guys are playing a game of tag for the last 30 years every May, and they go to great lengths. It's based on a true story. These guys are like in their mid 40s, late 40s, and they play tag, like, tag your kind of thing. Really good. So watch that. Hilarious. Okay.
I know that movie, but I haven't seen it. Viper,
it's funny. You'll like it. It's really good. And for shows, and I would really encourage you to look at the history of this and to watch other documentaries as well. Not because I felt that this was very one-sided. And it was a series. It's a 6-part series right now on Netflix. Waco. Okay, which is about the Waco siege that happened back in, I think it was 95 or 96. Yeah. So, and I remember watching that, like watching it happen on CNN when I was a kid. I think I was like 14 or 15 at the time. And it's very interesting remembering back what I remember, and then some of the documentaries and specials I've seen on it, and then watching this movie. It's a 6-parter, Waco.
Yeah. I watched the first few episodes over the weekend, and it's pretty good. But I need to watch the rest. But at the time, I was watching Ozark.
I keep on meaning to watch that.
Ozark is like, it's not as good as Breaking Bad.
Jason Bateman's in that, right? Like he's the main dude, right?
Yeah, it's not as good as Breaking Bad, but it is in the the Breaking Bad mold.
Okay. So now that you've said that, I'm going to watch a couple episodes tonight.
Yeah. So I watched that, and in terms of like films, geez, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen anything that's really all that good recently, unfortunately. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but trying to find a movie to watch, like a new release movie to watch with the family or something, most stuff has not been good. So
Tag is good.
So Tag, okay. Yeah. Viper, what do you got?
All right, so what are we picking? A movie and a what now?
A movie and a show, or series, like short series.
Movie and a show.
Yeah.
I don't really watch movies on Netflix too much, but the one I did watch, which I enjoyed, was the Underground with Ryan Reynolds. Thought that was pretty good.
Oh man, I got motion sickness from that movie. I watched it for like 10 minutes and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, that was all over the place, but I thought it was pretty good. Show on Netflix. Man, what have I been watching? I know people are gonna laugh about Carmen Sandiego, so I won't say Carmen Sandiego, but I love that show. I haven't really been watching most of the shows I've been watching lately are on Amazon Prime. I haven't really been watching anything on Netflix too much. But what do we got? Damn, I was gonna say The Witcher, but The Witcher went last year, like 2 years ago almost now. Yeah, I don't know, man. Lucifer, there y'all go. You should watch Lucifer. Awesome show.
Okay.
You know what? I just found a movie that that's on Netflix that would be worth watching.
Hmm.
Minority Report.
Oh yeah, that was always a good one.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
That's a really good movie. So Minority Report would be something that I would suggest.
The series was so bad.
I never saw the series.
I'm like, what is this crap?
Never saw the series. I mean, sometimes I love the movie 12 Monkeys.
Mm.
I love that movie. My wife loves that movie. They made
Brad Pitt's so messed up in that.
Yeah, they made that series
Yeah.
about it. I never watched a second of it.
No, the series was.
Yeah. So Borat is a must-see movie. Well, yeah.
What?
yeah. Borat is worth seeing once, I guess, isn't it?
I don't know.
That's right, Bob Grimes. Lucifer is awesome.
I've never watched it, so I can't speak to it. But I'll take you. I'll take you.
It started off on Fox, but then after 3 seasons, Fox cut it, so it ended up on Netflix.
Cool. So we got iPhone SE arriving in people's sweaty palms
Friday.
I know that it's on the way because Apple is taking the money out of my account.
Remember, Verizon's the money out of mine. So yeah, and I got a tracking number. I got tracking.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see if I got a tracking number, but yeah, I saw the money was gone, so I know that it's on the way. So we got the iPhone SE. There'll be, of course, reviews and such about the iPhone SE. I mean, honestly, I was thinking about I could just do the review of the iPhone SE like Thursday and Friday, and have it ready to go, and then when the phone shows up, I could just do a little bit of B-roll with the phone,
Oh my God.
and release the video right there.
They're gonna flame broil you.
The thing is, well, but it's true. I mean, there's nothing about this is the thing that's crazy. There's nothing about this phone that is unexpected or special.
It's funny that you bring it up because I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, you know what? I can probably have this doing this phone reviewed in a week because, like you said, it's not nothing new to it. It's just an iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few questions here and there, the battery life and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I thought like, oh geez, I could just I could be first out of the gate. First out of the gate.
No, you're not going to be first out of the gate because I'm guessing those reviews are going to drop tomorrow. I thought they would drop today. They usually drop the Tuesday before release, but I guess they're late.
They had to get their iPad keyboard reviews in.
Right.
Usually Apple doesn't send out like accessories like that. For review. Usually everybody just has to buy it. I like it that way. It's democratic. It's democratic. If you want to review the thing, you have to buy it.
Not for unbox therapy.
Well, I mean, Jason, the first Magic Keyboard review or whatever unboxing was by an average person. They wouldn't even buy a big YouTuber.
Well, it's true. I saw the first one that I saw was that was out there was Justine's, and but I haven't watched it. So
no, the first one I was out there was by a guy called Mr. Essence Strategy or whatever. I think he got like 70,000 views in 24 hours when he put his video out there because it was the first review or first video of the actual product itself. So
nice,
yeah,
nice.
Lucky,
See, those are the golden moments.
Lucky bastard.
All downhill from there for that guy, though.
Yeah,
all downhill from there. It's just going to be a terrible, terrible moment.
Yeah.
So anyway, final words. Anybody? Final words?
Woo! Oh my goodness!
Thank you.
It is. You know what? It's 2020, and we don't know when these releases are coming, but baby, it is an iPhone release week, and iPhone Day is on Friday. Get ready.
That's right. Be ready for all kinds of content. People trying to figure out how to make videos just because iPhone Day is like Christmas.
I can't wait for the influx of I'm switching to the iPhone SE. Why you should buy the iPhone SE? 5 things that are bad about the iPhone SE. 5 things that are great about the iPhone SE. Why I'm switching back to the Note 10 Plus from the iPhone SE. Shut up, okay? Shut up.
I resemble some of those comments.
I know. It's so obvious and it's painful, but hey, people click on it.
I'm at the point now where I can't even I I don't even go there anymore. I don't even go there anymore.
iPhone SE means stimulus edition. Hey, look how clever I am.
Genosis, there's definitely going to be a versus from me. Versus is one of my things. So there's definitely going to be a versus. Like
Hell
iPhone
yeah.
SE, but I think iPhone SE versus iPhone 11 is a valid comparison. In the sense that, you know, there are going to be a lot of people asking, well, what is the difference between the two? Why is one, you know, a couple $100 more than the other?
Here's your BuzzFeed title. Autofocus showdown. You won't believe the results.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
The
yeah.
software alone on the iPhone is going to kick, you know,
Yeah.
Samsung in between the legs.
Yeah, it'll be a quick nut shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna hurt. Samsung will be back on their feet by the time they get the S20, the Note 20 Ultra ready for us. And I mean, people get mad at me because I'm ragging on Samsung so much, and you know, I ragged on Apple this much at this time a couple of years ago because I thought Apple was screwing the pooch, and I think Samsung is screwing the pooch right now. I think that they are totally messing up everything that they need to do.
I think they just need to focus a little bit more on their awesome tier 2 devices that we don't hear a lot about, and to make people realize that, hey, you know, there's something that competes with, you know, the
Smartphones
SE
are
or whatever, right?
Like second tier phones are people too.
Mm-hmm.
Second tier live matter, right?
That's right. That's right. You know, so we go SJW on the second tier phones.
SGW. Man.
Oh man, I don't even want to start talking about that acronym because it makes me really mad. But
Roll the music, baby.
oh, you know what? This has been a good episode. I really enjoyed this. I can't believe we got this much traction out of talking about the iPhone SE, but yet we did, and the iPhone SE is going to be a very interesting phone to check out here coming up in the next couple of days. So I'm sure next week we'll be talking about the iPhone SE as well. But for this week, thank you guys so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Zach, final words.
All right.
Viper.
You know where to find me. So come back for more.
Painfully Honest Tech Podcast, the podcast so honest it hurts, baby. Until the next time, we're out.